Hi, my name is Kenneth Paul and this is my woodworking shop. I'm excited to have you here today. We've got a great project. Today's project is a takedown recurve bow. I make these videos to share with you the woodworking techniques and the projects I make here in my shop. I'm going to walk you through laying up the laminate limbs and my design thoughts on the riser and a few other goodies. And as always, if you enjoy the content I'm producing here, do me a favor. Subscribe, hit like, leave a comment. You know the drill. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, what we have here is a 68-inch, 45-pound at 28-inch takedown recurve bow. Alright, let me flip her over. You can see the tips of the bow have been strengthened with 3 layers of phenolic and a little bit of laminate wood. The limbs on this particular bow, I used 6 different layers. 2 layers of clear fiberglass, 2 layers of a waterfall sapele veneer, 1 layer of a bamboo taper, and a center layer of a black fiberglass. I'm trying to see if you can, how well the design comes out here, but you should be able to see. Let me see a good place for that. I've got a layer of birch, and then I've got a stringer of mahogany, maple, and walnut. Then there's the center black stripe. And then we repeat the birch, layer, birch. The wood of the riser, on this particular bow I use diamond wood. Here's a sample of it. Diamond wood is basically a dyed birch with lots and lots of layers, I think 50 some odd layers that have been pressed under gosh awful heat and pressure. There we go, you should be able to see the striations there. It very, very hard wood, very, very stable. Let me see if I can get a picture with the waterfall sapele, which is a lovely veneer. Alright, let me show you a different bow and then we'll get into the making. Alright, this bow has 4 layer limbs, all bamboo, 2 layers of clear glass, a layer of parallel bamboo, a layer of tapered bamboo. The riser is curly maple and cocobolo with the same sort of pieced inlay. I named this bow Encalagon the Black after a dragon in the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I know, I'm a geek. And again, the tips have been strengthened with phenolic and wood inlays. Here's a chunk of wood I cut out when I was making this. You can see that design goes all the way through. Here's a couple of limbs, also bamboo 4-layer, getting ready to be worked on. Alright, let me set up and show you the layout for making these limbs. Alright, this is the form I build my limbs on. It's made up of stacked plywood. I cut the shape out of the limbs. I used plans from Bingham Archery. And they have a paper template that you can just follow for this curve. Then, to get a perfectly smooth bottom to put my laminations against, I contact cemented down a piece of fiberglass. Here's the pattern I used to cut my limbs out with. You can see I got a steel pin here for reference. It would butt against there and then tape on down. Now, if I was laying up a limb right now, for epoxy, almost all bow makers use the same epoxy. It's called smooth-on epoxy. It's a 2-part epoxy. It's a gel consistency. It's the only epoxy I would recommend for the limbs. It's specifically made for this application, and it works. So after mixing your epoxy, you would, this is a piece of white fiberglass. Let's say I don't have any clear on me right now, so you would take this piece of white fiberglass, put epoxy on one side, lay it in the form. This is a piece of taper. This changes in thickness 0.02 of an inch every inch. And the reason it does that is the weight you're looking for in your bow. Like the bows I just showed you are both in the 45-pound range. Bingham has a chart saying what thickness you would have to make your limb to be whatever weight you were looking for. If you're looking for a 27-pound bow, if you're looking for a 50-pound bow, and how you would adjust the weight. Every 1/1000th of an inch is 1 pound of weight on the limb. So, if I had this piece in here and I wanted to go down 3 pounds in weight from where the thickness was, I would back this up 1.5 inches, and it would be 0.03 of an inch thinner, and therefore it would be 3 pounds less. So I've got my fiberglass down, then I would put in the taper, cut to the desired length, because the only place you're worried about that thickness is here at the butt. So I would put epoxy on both sides of the taper, put that in. I would then take my parallel, and again this one's just a piece of walnut, epoxy both sides, put it in the stack. Then take my last layer of fiberglass, this one's black, I would do one side of the fiberglass, put it down. Also there would be a wedge in here which you can buy from, you can either make your own or you can buy them from Bingham. And then you would take a piece of metal, put it on top of your stack, and at this point you would just packing tape this down. Once this was packing taped down where it would stay in place temporarily, you would place a fire hose over it. If you notice, this fire hose has a Schrader air fitting on it. So you would lay this air hose over your taped down limb. Then you would slide on the top of your form. Come on. There we go. These bolts would lock it in place. and then you would inflate this fire hose to create a pneumatic press. Once you have this inflated to the right poundage to put pressure the whole way, you need to put those limbs in a 180-degree oven. All right, what we have here is a homemade oven. I'll show you. It's very simple. It's just a plywood box. I've lined it with foil insulation. And there are 2 light bulb fixtures and a 180-degree thermostat, which you can also get from Bingham's. You would then place your limbs. You want to do one at a time. You would take your limb, put your limb in the oven. For the oven to work, you need 200-watt incandescent bulbs. You can still get these online. So you will put in 2 200-watt incandescent bulbs and then close the lid. This is going to bake for about 6 to 8 hours. The thermostat will keep turning lights on and off to keep the temperature in the box at 180 degrees. And when they come out, this is what you end up with. Here you can see the wedge I was talking about from here to right here. All right. One moment. I just wanted to show you here a piece of the veneer I use in my limbs. On the first bow I showed you, this is a waterfall sapling. I believe this one is about 27 thousandths of an inch. Here we go. Now, as for the riser, again, Bingham's Archery has patterns. I made my own pattern for a riser. This is the pattern I use. 3 pieces, outside, and then an inside piece. And then for the stripes, what I do is I glue up a 2-inch piece, a 2-inch square piece of mahogany, maple, walnut, maple, mahogany. Once I have about a 2-foot length of that 2x2, I rip it into strips. And this is the molding I use to create the design in my risers. That goes in between here and in between here. Now, let me give you a little hint on working with 3-piece designs in a riser. All right. You've got a block of wood. You want to cut a design into it to make your riser. That's fine. You take your bandsaw, you cut this, and these 2 pieces will fit together. Now here's where the problem comes in. If, let's say, you want to make a 5/8 of an inch stripe of a different wood, this piece and this piece will no longer fit together. Watch. Here's a roll of tape, one single piece, one single circle. Let's draw a line on the outside of the circle. And let's draw a line on the inside of the circle. You see what we have here? Even though it's one piece, we have two totally different circles for that 5/8 of an inch to work. Once you put this 5/8 in here, this piece will no longer fit this piece. So what you would have to do is mark out the full 5/8 of an inch, cut here, and then cut here, put in your 5/8, and then glue it all together. Because if you do this single cut and try to put the 5/8 in, you'll end up with this situation. The two curves are no longer the same. Important lesson to learn there. Okay. For drilling the hole in the limb in the riser, there's a threaded insert that this bolt goes into. Bingham sells this jig. It clamps onto the riser, and you drill the holes in the riser using one set of holes, and then it clamps onto the limb, and you drill the other set of holes to go inside for your limb to mate to the riser. Because there's some steel pins inside here. You have this main screw, and then there's a steel pin that goes through so that you have 2 points of contact. Straightening your limbs. When you build the bow, you may find that you have a slight twist to the limbs at first. That's okay. Let's say it was lifted up on this side. That would make this side the strong side. It doesn't want to bend as much as the other side. So you would cut your knock for your string a little deeper on this side and take a little material off this side until it comes up. How deep to cut your insert? I like to cut past center. If you were to draw a line from the center of the limb and the center of the riser, I want to be at least 1/8 of an inch past center. I can always bring it out a little bit with my arrow rest. I find it gives me more tuning opportunities by having it cut past center. For the riser, you'll see that little notch there. The knuckle of my thumb fits right inside that notch. What I do is when I start finish carving the riser, I carve it a little bit, then I shoot it for a little while, feel where the high points are for my hand, and carve away a little bit more until we end up with a bow that just fits naturally into my hand. Why do I like takedown bows instead of a one-piece bow, which you can also make? You just have to make a bigger form. I like the takedown bows for a simple reason is there's more mass in the riser. The more mass you have in the riser, the more stable the bow is. In traditional class, you can't. Many traditional classes don't let you put a stabilizer on, but they don't limit how heavy you make the riser. It's kind of like a built-in stabilizer. Also, I like a bow 68 inches or longer. A longer limb is a more forgiving limb. The string is coming at less of an angle when you draw the bow, so it's easier on your fingers. It's easier to get a clean release, and it's a smoother, more forgiving bow. It may not be the best bow for hunting because it's a tall bow to have in the woods, but for target shooting, the longer the limb, the better. These are pieces of phenolic. This is black phenolic. This is what I build up the tips with in order to strengthen the tips, because there's a lot of pressure on them with that string. Okay. The finish I use on my risers and my bows, I use Thunderbird Traditional Archery Epoxy Finish. It's a 2-part epoxy and a thinner cleaner. I just brush it on. I don't spray them, I brush them, and I always ended up with a good durable finish. Naturally, I have people ask, how accurate are these bows? Using my homemade bows, shooting my homemade wooden arrows, I have twice won the NAA United States Indoor Traditional Archery Championships. So these bows will shoot as well as anything else out there. Alright, a bow is only as good as the arrows it shoots. Let me set up and I'll walk you through my techniques for making wooden arrows. Alright, your arrows are as important as the bow. A bad bow will still shoot accurately or consistently with a really good arrow. The world's greatest bow will not shoot consistently unless it has decent arrows. My preference for arrows are Sitka spruce that have been breasted. This is a 11/32 shaft that's been tapered 10 inches in the front from 11/32 to 5/16, and it's been tapered 12 inches in the back from 11/32 to 5/16. And what that does, it puts more mass in the center of the arrow and lets the arrow recover from archer's paradox, where the arrow is flexing quicker. The arrows for my bow are about a 74-pound spine. Spine has more to do with how center cut the bow is than it does the weight of the bow. So what I have here is a little device I made, 26 inches on center, which is how you determine the spine on a wooden arrow. It's 28 on the synthetic arrows. You take a 2-pound weight, that's with this jar, a little baby food jar with 2 pounds of little lead weights in it. And you hang the weight in the middle, and I've got a little dial caliper here. And you see that came around to about 340 thousandths. Now if you take 26 and divide it into 340, you end up in that 74-pound range. However, what you do to dial it in exactly, you keep turning the arrow. See over here, it's 35. Over here, it's only 320. When you find the exact weight you're looking for, I make a small little pencil mark. You can't see it on this one, but it's right here. And that's where I put my cock feather, exactly opposite that. So the exact spine I'm looking for is always exactly against the riser of the bow, and it makes my arrows much more consistent. This is not a hard device to build, and it will really help. As long as you're building things, this is a bathroom fan, which I hooked up to a plug and a dimmer switch so I control the speed. And what this does, let me see if you can see that on there. This is how I add my cresting. Turn the motor on. This spins. I can control the spin by putting a little pressure here. And I just paint on my cresting. What this large device in the back here is for making my strings. Made that out of solid oak. And And once I make the strings, I hook one of these up on each end, and I'm able to pre-stretch my strings. This gives me total quality control over my bows, my strings, and my arrows. All right. Again, most of the tools and materials you see here are available through Bingham Archery. They've got the epoxies, the fiberglass. They've got the tapered wedges in many different species of wood. You can buy the diamond wood blanks from Bingham Archery. It's a fun project. It's not all that complicated. If you have any questions, just let me know and I'll answer them. All right. And again, if you like the content, do me a favor and subscribe. All right. Now you have a good day. Bye-bye.